Alrighty, what's up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about the vast interconnectedness of the markets and just people in general. So, when we think about ourselves, or we think about an individual stock or a company, we usually see them as just that one thing, as separate from everything else, as its own individual entity. But actually, it's connected to everything else in this kind of vast net. So the energy moves from one thing to another, but it's in this enclosed system. So today I'm going to be pulling some ideas from Matt Ridley's book on genome. And forgive me if I don't fully encompass his ideas. It's been a little while since I've read the book, but I will be pulling ideas from it. So, what gives an organism or a company its staying power? What allows it to survive across time? Or what are the things that will cause it to eventually fail? So, a company or an individual that's able to innovate quickly, to change their thought patterns, to adapt to situations, is able to incorporate new ideas into themselves. And through this process of incorporating new ideas, it goes through this selection process where new ideas are taken in and then the environment calls the new ideas. So it destroys everything that doesn't function within the environment, that doesn't pass the environmental test, whatever it is, the market or society or nature. And it ends up keeping those individual traits that are successful, that allow it to survive over time. So those beneficial traits are passed on in the business to the next generation. So as a certain species or a corporation become larger, they become more bureaucratized. So as they become larger, they don't have to innovate as much. They don't have to change and incorporate new ideas because they become more stable. They have less enemies. There's less competition. There's no reason to innovate. So this crystallization of their actions and their lack of incorporating new ideas is what leads to this downfall over time. And then you have the the individuals, the companies, the creatures who are on the lower tier, which have to deal with a lot of competition. So other individuals trying to fight them for food and limited resources. So this major competition between the lower tiers leads to a high amount of innovation. So incorporating new ideas in order to allow yourself to survive this process, this selection, which over time, like either cuts you out of the gene pool due to an inability to acquire skills or traits or genetic code that meets the specifications of the environment, whatever the environment is at that given time. So this selection process leads you up the staircase over time. So in my mind, it's this never-ending circle of extremely small but very fast innovation, which leads to a vast abundance of creation, which is culled. And then the best parts of that goes to the next step, and then it's another vast amount of ideas and innovation, which is culled, and then you have a smaller amount, which allows that to create the next level of overproduction, culling, overproduction, culling, overproduction, culling, until you reach this area where you are at the highest tier, where you have no more competition. And then it becomes this bureaucratic thing where there, over time, like need the innovation eventually dies down because there's no competition. And then things at smaller tiers are able to catch up due to their faster innovation. So what allows things to survive and to continue to thrive into successive generations is the ability to innovate, the ability to consistently change and adapt to the situations. Because once you stop changing and adapting to situations, then it becomes bureaucratized. It becomes this stagnant thing in which things that are beneath it on lower tiers are innovating and then eventually undermining whatever the top thing is, the top business, the top creature, whatever it is. It it eventually comes up with something that is able to overturn whatever the current head of the system is. And this happens again and again and again and again. And you see it in societies, in nations, in creatures. So let's talk about the stock market. So if everyone in the community wants something, let's say they wanted to buy this hydro flask from me, right? So everyone in the community wants to buy this hydro flask, but there's only one. So if people come to me and they're like, I want this hydro flask, how do I determine who like wants this hydro flask? So if everyone wants it, you can raise the price of the hydro flask. The value of the hydro flask goes up because the demand for it is high, which creates a seller's market. So if I'm the seller and a lot of people want something, the price must go up because the amount of dollars chasing this individual limited commodity is greater than the limited commodity itself. So in order to most efficiently disperse this limited commodity, the price must reflect it by going up. So in contrast to this, if everyone in the community wanted to sell their hydro flask and I wanted to buy the hydro flask, so this creates a buyer's market. So because everyone in the community wants to sell this hydro flask, this sends the price down because there's only one buyer and there's a vast amount of sellers. So because there is a high supply of hydro flasks and a low supply of money, the value that the society subscribes to the hydro flask goes down and the value of the dollar goes up because the supply of hydro flasks is high, but the supply of dollars is low. So what is valued highest is the dollar because that's what's being asked for. And of course, this idea is going to vary from business to business depending on what you're specifically looking at. Because if you understand that you're investing in a stock, that stock represents a company and that company sells a good or service. So you have to look at what the company itself is selling and if that company is profitable and if you're able to understand everything that's going into that company, that's a whole different side thing. Anyway, that's not financial, medical, or low spirit advice. Thank you very much for watching. And Uncle Iro. Goodbye.